Welcome back to another episode of the platform. Let's talk about it. This is your host, Jasmine Lynn, live and in person, here to join you for another episode of the podcast where we are going to be discussing a couple of different things. The main theme today will be redirection, and we're going to talk about it from the lens of personal growth, resilience, and transformation. Excited to have you here with me today. It's been a while. I had a rough start coming into this week and getting to this point of actually recording. So it's an honor to share this space with you again. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. And let's go ahead and dive right in, why don't we? If I'm looking down, it's because this is where my notes are. Um, like I mentioned before, we'll definitely be talking about redirection and um, you know, kind of like I was discussing a couple seconds ago, that I had a rough start coming into this week and getting to the point of recording with you all. Sometimes life's gonna throw some curveballs or some obstacles, and I think this is a very right on time topic to talk about given what just transpired in my personal life. And just overall, this theme that I've been on, I feel like this whole year. And it definitely it got kicked in the hyperdrive um, during law school for sure. So I'm, this is definitely something that's personal and it came from a very personal place. But I felt like it was something that should be shared because it's something that we all go through. It's a part of life, getting redirected. And I think navigating it, you can kind of feel very lonely. And I guess I just wanted to make this episode to kind of be a relatable point for anybody who may be feeling like they're going through a period of redirection and not really knowing how to approach it or how to feel, or just want some company along the way. That's what this episode's for. So find you a cozy spot and let's, embark on this discussion and journey talking about this concept together. So, like I mentioned before, life throwing curveballs is typically when you think of redirection, I think that's the way most people think about it. They're thinking about it from like something went wrong or something's going really well that's altering the way that I have to approach or my past approaches to life or said thing. And I think with me starting law school, this topic has been something I've been wanting to talk about for months, but I haven't really felt like I was in the creative, spiritual space to talk about this from a lens that wasn't super jaded. And I'm very cognizant about how I come to this platform because it's important to me. I believe that when you have the microphone, you should use it wisely. So I don't like to just get up here saying anything sometimes, even though it may come across like I am. I try to at least be aware of my tone and just my overall energy that I'm giving to the concept because I know that this can affect other people. And that's the purpose of this podcast. And I don't want to abuse that purpose. So I recently, to give you a little context on, I know I've been dropping little hints about, redirection this, redirection that, and challenges I've been experiencing recently. Y'all, I got COVID for the first time. And baby, COVID got hands. Okay, COVID got hands. I hear the girls now. I'm vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I've been previously vaccinated before getting COVID, but um, it really put into perspective all the things that people were telling me prior to like the vaccinations and things becoming real popular. People who I knew who got COVID, like the first round, you could say, and there wasn't no vaccine, there was no medicine, there was no nothing. Ooh, y'all have strength, okay? Because it was not fun at all. And then adding the fact that I'm in law school, I was like Delulu trying to sit there and tell myself, oh no, you're fine. Like you can drive 40 minutes to your school and it'll be absolutely fine. Spend a whole day there, even though you can barely stand up. You can barely stand up and you're burning up, but it's fine. You can make it. We've done worse things. And I kind of had to come to terms with myself and just be like, you know what? No, no, you're not going to school actually. And you know what? Go ahead and take a COVID test while you're at it. Just to rule it out. Just to rule it out. I was thinking I had the flu. I was like, oh, it's probably just the flu, no biggie. And it's funny, the night before I woke up sick, I started to feel sick. I was just like, but it was very mild. The pain was increasing as the day went on. Like late that night, right before I went to bed, I was in a lot of pain. My back was hurting. But anyone who's a woman knows sometimes your back just hurts, especially given what point of your menstrual cycle you're on and all that timing and things of that nature. Sometimes your back just hurts. So I was like, well, maybe if I go to bed, I can sleep it off. Now, woke up, was in an immense amount of pain. And I think it lasted. I got sick I started feeling symptoms Tuesday, woke up that Wednesday morning, couldn't go to class Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Today's Monday. Still couldn't go to class. Not because I wasn't feeling well, but because I wasn't cleared to go back. My quarantine wasn't uplifted by the school yet. But yeah, so all that to say, I remember prior to getting sick, I kept saying, "Oh, I can't afford to get sick during this semester. It's my first semester of law school. Like, absolutely not. We're not doing it." Okay. And mind you, I don't really go out like that. I don't really, um, I socialize every now and then, but it's not like I'm out here hitting the streets just doing a whole bunch of stuff while I'm in school, at least. No. And so when I got sick, I was just so flabbergasted because I'm like, all I do is go to school. I thought, go to school, come home, do what it's supposed to do. I'll probably be fine. I wash my hands, I have Clorox wipes in my bag. I wasn't wearing my mask. I will say that, but I just thought I wasn't a target for good old COVID, and I learned quickly that COVID is no respecter of persons. So it took a lot of like woo-sawing for me to kind of come to terms with the fact that I was going to be out of commission for a few days, especially because school moved so fast, and I was just like, I couldn't even really conceptualize how behind I was going to be or anything of that nature. I just was like, well, we here now, so let me just enjoy this time while I can. But as I was doing that, I came to realize, like, at least this is the approach I take when I get sick and things like that. I don't like to just take it as a moment of like, oh, this just happened. I take moments of sickness and things like that as kind of a signal from God of like, He's sitting you down, causing you to focus on Him and remember that you have to be dependent on Him. And that's definitely what I took the time to do. And I think a big takeaway from the whole experience was just that sometimes we get overconfident or we lack confidence in ourselves and in who we are and whose we are and our purpose here. And I think that in order to not allow that cup to dry out, for lack of a better way of saying that, you kind of have to do the work to stay in his presence and realize that it doesn't matter if it's a good type of redirection or a bad type of redirection. A redirection has its purpose and you can completely miss it if you're too busy still trying to operate in the same patterns that you've been doing, because that's not the purpose of a redirection. The purpose of a redirection isn't just to turn your attention elsewhere, but it's also to be a self-reflection point for you to realize, okay, where are some areas in my life that I may have thought I had on lock or under control, or I have this mature understanding when you may not. And that's not to be a point of getting down on yourself or to feel like, oh, I just can't believe that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew. Oh, I'm stupid. Or that shouldn't be a point to then think less of yourself. I think being able to humble yourself and quiet your ego and hear from him and recognize that the beauty of being human is to live in dependence on him, uh, in a higher source than yourself. That's the bread and butter. That's the bread and butter, as the old folks would say. But that's the difference between redirection being a crossroad that you pass, you walk over, or a bridge that you walk over, you could even say, or a roundabout where you just keep driving in a circle. Just keep driving in a circle looking for your exit, and your exit is right there. You know, and I think that it is a beautiful thing if you choose to look at it that way. I think when people are too focused on the steps ahead or focused on the steps behind them, they have a tendency to get distracted from the purpose of them going through what they're going through in the first place. And again, I was so grateful to kind of go through what I went through right before having this conversation, because when I initially talked about it, I was thinking about it from a perspective of like, yeah, I'm in law school, I'm living alone, I'm experiencing all this redirection. I'm going from being a working adult to no longer being a working adult, going back to being a student. Um, just a number of different things, experiences that were new and felt like it was pointing me in the direction of the person that I desire and who I believe I should be becoming. But it wasn't making me feel good. Like I wasn't happy about it when I was going through it. Like I said, I couldn't even come on here and talk about it from a positive perspective because I just felt like, this is a lot. I'm tired. I'm irritable. I have to deal with people all day. I don't feel like getting up here and talking to a camera. I don't feel like getting up here and talking to a microphone. I don't feel like it, quite frankly. I have to worry about getting called on in class randomly without my consent. I have to worry about grading curves and the competition environment of a law school and kissing up to professors and, oh, this networking event or this networking event. And I think just not really, I knew that's what I had signed up for, but it was just like, ugh, like I don't, like anybody who knows, who's been here before, knows I'm naturally introverted. So I feel like I do my best thinking when I'm alone. I recharge myself the best when I'm alone. So this whole experience has just been very, very challenging on a personal level. And then you add all this new knowledge and information. It's just a lot. And I wasn't necessarily feeling the most grateful for the redirection. Like I kind of mentioned before, I kind of felt like I was like, okay, it's not getting worse necessarily, but I don't necessarily see like I'm feeling like I'm seeing the end of the tunnel here either. And now going through what I've gone through and kind of having some perspective, God kind of having to isolate me, literally quarantined, isolate me and remind me that my focus should always be on him, and not only just on him, but pleasing him and knowing that he's the one who orchestrates and authors my purpose here, and nothing is out of his control. And I think that that is such a powerful place to be and to accept if you let it be what it is. I think sometimes people can kind of get in their head of like, okay, well, what does that mean though? Like, I wish I could cue the Drewski clip of like, what do you mean by that? But yeah, kind of having that mentality of like, okay, I get it. He's in control. Got it. He's the author. Got it. He's the orchestrator. Got it. But what am I supposed to do? And even I still struggle with that. But I'm realizing that by asking that question, you're going to get the answer. So you don't have to keep asking it. Like, he knows your heart. So it's not something that you have to continuously be searching for. Oh my gosh, Lord, help me understand what it is. How do I do this? Because if you just spend time with him, you'll probably realize what the purpose is of going through whatever you're going through, instead of fighting the air, wishing that you weren't in it, or wishing that you could understand it even. When in reality, that's maybe not why you're there. Maybe you don't need to understand it. Maybe that's not the purpose of why you're going through what you're going through. Maybe the purpose is purely, hey, you need to absorb as much knowledge and experience as you can from this, because it's going to prepare you for the next thing. And maybe you may not understand it now, but you'll understand it at the next point. Like being okay with not knowing everything. And it sounds easier said than done, of course, but it's a work in progress. And again, that's why I said I wanted to come up here and talk about it from this lens, because I wanted people to feel less alone when they go through something like this. Like, I want this to be encouraging to those listening to understand that maybe trying to understand the circumstance isn't necessarily should be the goal. Maybe being present in the circumstance, getting what you can out of the situation from the understanding of spending time with him and knowing your purpose. And I think that that's not something that happens overnight necessarily, but if you're committed and you're intentional, we talk about being intentional all the time, it'll come probably quicker than you realize. I think people think like, okay, well, what about tomorrow? And it's like, what about today? Like, you too busy worried about tomorrow, or too busy worried about next week or the end of the year or the holidays or you going to family events or whatever. And in reality, it's like, what about today? What can you do today to help you get there? I think, again, I'm this is not coming from a perspective of I got this all together, because I literally, my mom just had to talk to me. I was saying like, I'm not looking forward to going back to school. Sue me, pun intended. I'm not looking forward to going back to law school. Like, I actually enjoyed my break. Like, I got to sit around and be a human being, even though I was a sick human being and it wasn't necessarily the most fun experience in the world. I still got to see me for me and not see myself as this or that or whatever I deem the circumstance needed for me, whether that's a friend, a sister, a daughter, whatever. I think just being able to take time to be God's child, to be honest, was nice. And it made me realize like it I have to be much more intentional than I've been about keeping that at the forefront of my mind. Ultimately, I was God's child before I was my mother's child. I was God's child before I graduated college. I was God's child before I got to law school. I was God's child before I got a cat. I was God's child before any of this. So why not keep that on the forefront of your mind? Because he gives strength to people who seek him. He gives peace to people who seek him. And I was thinking about like, oh my God, I done missed 2 days, and then I'm gonna miss a third day on Monday, and I'm gonna be so behind, and it's gonna be all this. I'm gonna have to get notes from so and so, and I'm probably gonna have to meet. I had a group presentation I missed. I was just like, who doggy? It's not getting this ain't getting much better. It's not getting much better, but I realized that the more I thought about it 4 days in advance, of course, I wanna throw up. Of course, I wanna throw up. Of course, I wanna submit my withdrawal papers. I wanna submit my withdrawal papers and just be like, "You know what? It's okay. I don't know, it's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'll pick another career. It's fine." And I think that it's just good to recognize that God's in tomorrow, he's in the day after, he's in next week, he's in all of that. He's in the now though. And the now is the only moment you're actually going to be able to receive things from him, because you can't receive stuff tomorrow if you're not in tomorrow. So, I think that all that to say that redirection is what you make it. And I feel like that's just life in general, but redirection specifically can be one of those things that causes people to kind of experience like some level of analysis paralysis, or just feeling like, I don't know if I can face this. I don't know if I'm equipped for this. I don't know anything. I'm confused. There's so many unknowns about this new path that I don't even know if I really want to go. I don't even know if I really want to open that door. And it's like, well, if you don't open the door, you're just going to continue to stare at it. Because we go through these things for a reason. So if it's not now that you're going to go through it, it's going to happen later. So instead of getting caught up in the can I not, just focus on the fact that you're not equipped to do it now or later without him, without recognizing that you are a dependent creature. If the sun were to go away, we would die. If the water were to go away, we would die. If we don't eat anything, we would die. And I know this sounds very morbid, but I'm just speaking with the purpose of saying that we need things. We need people. We can't be on this earth by ourselves. Like, we're not naturally just these super independent creatures who don't need anybody or need anything. Even the creatures that we probably assume are, I'll use a snake for example. Snakes aren't necessarily creatures that we are known to be the most social of creatures, but they still need the sun. They still need to eat. They still need to reproduce. So it's just important to kind of have that context that just like a snake or just like a bird or whoever, they don't walk around life every day wondering when they're going to get their next meal or how they're going to get their next meal. They just go do it because they know they need to. They don't get caught up in the, oh, is God going to provide this time or anything like that. And I know this is a very spiritual based episode, which, I'm not afraid to go there. But I just feel like there's no way to talk about redirection without talking about the divine nature in it. And I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to encourage people to get grounded, because no matter what, one thing remains the same. And that is that you can either live in dependence on him and get the strength that you need and the peace that you need to overcome, or you can try and figure it out yourself. And figuring it out yourself comes with consequences. Not saying all the consequences are bad or that all the consequences are good. There may be a combo of both, but there's going to be long lasting inheritance that you're going to reap from down the line when you do it in dependence on him, because he's going to pave the path for you versus you paving it yourself and it's all lumpy. And I know that's maybe a funny analogy, but it's just designed to lay out the fact that we're imperfect creatures. So why try to fool ourselves into believing that we can operate as if we were perfect creatures? Because we're not. And that's okay. Also, want to encourage people to surround yourself with people who are actually equipped to do the things that you want to do. Not saying you have to just cut everybody off that isn't equipped to do what you want to do, but having an example is important. Having representation, I talk about that all the time. Having representation is important for yourself, for your brain to conceptualize these things and see, like, okay, I'm not the first person who's trying to do this. More than likely, whatever you're trying to do, you're not the first person to try to do it. So having an example ahead of you is imperative for your brain to kind of conceptualize, okay, this is not some abstract idea. And that's not to compare yourself to other people or compare yourself, get too invested in other people's journeys to the point where you are able to still hear from him and know what your journey is supposed to look like and supposed to be. But it's still good encouragement to know that you're not alone and that it's doable. It's figure outable, as people say. So that's my spiel. I know it's probably not the most uplifting episode ever. And well, that's not true. I feel like I did pretty good. I feel like given the topic, I think I did pretty good. But it may not be the most fun episode, I should say, that I've done thus far. But I definitely think it's necessary. If this is something that you want to hear more about later, or would like to be discussed from a different perspective, or have questions, please feel free to submit the questions either on social media or on the podcast Spotify page, or email, whatever works for you. I'd love to hear feedback. I definitely think that this is something that's really relatable, and I'm 99.9% sure I didn't necessarily hit on every little thing that could have been discussed. So, this is something that you enjoyed. Please let me know if this was encouraging to you. Please let me know. It helps me to help you when I know what you guys actually want to hear. So, yeah, until next time, I appreciate you being here. It's only going to get better. I was sick, so don't judge my appearance, okay? I'm going to have to wear a hat for all the rest of the week, to be honest. I don't know what I'm going to do with my hair, but it's okay. It's okay because I have bigger fish to fry than my hair, and it'll get done eventually. That's just my my approach to everything right about now. But yeah, so signing off. I appreciate you sharing this space with me. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Please rate the podcast on whatever platform that you're listening to. Leave a little comment, talk about what you like, interact with some polls. Let me hear from you, please. Okay? See you next time. Bye.